There's a group that I'm part of now called Stolen, Sold, Slaughtered in Nebraska and every state in the Union. It's on Facebook. Those of you who are monitoring my Facebook might have noticed this. Not that any of you would. Not that any of you are actually that psycho, but I know you are. And those of you who are peeking at my Facebook looking for evidence to try to help, well, thank you anyway. If you notice, I've been posting up a lot of stuff about teachers, many of them female, but some of them males as well. Not just teachers, but also preachers and police officers and principals and things of that nature. These people are in positions of power. The difference between them getting away with it and them getting to victimize more people is whether or not people actually investigate, whether or not the police actually do their jobs, which takes more than one person coming forward. More than one person came forward about, well, Chapel Police Department, or Dual County Police Department, I should say. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that the posts on my Facebook are sexual predators. Sexual predators in positions of power who can call their victims mentally ill if they so choose. That's why it's important for more than one person to come forward. And I will admit, for me, no police officer has ever molested me. No teacher has ever molested me. No preacher has ever molested me, and none of my principals molested me. However, I was molested in the system. I told teachers what was going on. I told preachers what was going on. I told the police what was going on. And I got the mentally ill treatment. I have been trying to force a day in court for a little over 2 years now. I was trying to get Natalie Bollinger to tell the truth, to come forward and ask these people to stop. Obviously, she never did. Y'all ever wonder why I exposed Ted Bollinger? Because the predators too often get away. When Natalie had that issue with her father, it was her sister who turned him in. Alicia Michelle Bollinger turned her father in. And after Natalie's death, she hopped in bed with the motherfucker. Ted Bollinger is allowed to do whatever he wants. And Alicia Bollinger is an addict. Who was it that got her started on that? Her father. I've got a whole floor full of evidence that needs to be looked at. But police, everywhere that I went, refused to do their jobs. did wrong things. Public pretenders did wrong things. Now I get to listen to Dexter for the last week or so. Killing the bad guys. Killing the bad guys, chopping them up, and throwing them in the ocean. That doesn't set the example, and it doesn't give the family any closure. Now, all these motherfuckers that I've been posting up, that sets the example. That gives these families closure. Now, in a lot of those cases, these people actually get away. They walk. Most often in the cases of police officers. Police officers are, out of every profession in America, are the most likely to abuse their spouses. Cops are the most likely criminals when it comes to abuse of power, because their victims are so afraid to come forward. Now you see how I was treated for coming forward about police officers. It's abuse of power. When I was molested, it was by foster families and by staff at group homes, and of course by some of the other children that I was locked up with. Many of them were older than me. My abuse started in Colorado, and it went on for a lot of years. But these things happen everywhere in America. And I will do everything that I can, short of physically harming other human beings, to force the goddamn cops to take a look. If I have to break the law to make that happen, I will break the law repeatedly. I got all these stories coming in from other people who have had to go through this. One young woman I was helping to find got a hold of me, and oh fuck. Her story sounds like my story as a kid. Going to the police, telling on your predators, and the police cover for your predators. Does that sound familiar? You're given a choice between living with your predator or being locked up. You know what that's like? To be victimized and told that you have a choice between going back into the system where you were raped, where you were molested, where you were beaten, or living with your predators outside of an institution. Do you know why most people go back to their families, the families who abuse them? Because they still want to see their friends. They still want to see their loved ones. They know they're going to be abused either way, but in the system, they know they'll get away with it. Your dad's more afraid than the police officer. Your dad is more afraid than the principal. Because your dad doesn't have a position of power the way they do. He still has a position of power. He controls the roof over your head. Most of you probably can't tell that I am obviously having a severe panic attack right now, but I'm not having a meltdown. That's because what I have to say, I need to make sure that it is heard. I am tired of young men and young women ending up dead, and nobody does a goddamn thing about it because they're poor, because they're children, or because they turned in their predators. The police did everything in their power not to look at evidence, made every excuse not to look at evidence. I kept getting told that I have to make a phone call to their superiors, and instead of doing something about it, their superiors blow me off or have me committed. They want to argue with me instead of listening to what it is that I'm telling them. Like Sheriff Scott DaCosta here in Chapel, Nebraska. No matter where I went, the police made excuse after excuse after excuse not to look at the evidence. Meanwhile, I was taking abuse the whole time, and I still continue to take that abuse. I want my day in court. I told Darren O'Connor, before Natalie was killed, I told Darren O'Connor about the things that I went through in the system, and he promised to help. I told him that all I needed to take these fucking cops down for the things that they're doing to the homeless, most of whom grew up in the system, being raped, being molested, being beaten by these authority figures. Well, the police always let them get away and always victimized the victims. And this is why most of the homeless don't trust a cop as far as they can fucking throw them. They learned at a young age that you go to the cops when somebody victimizes you, and you get victimized by the cops. You get victimized by the system, and you don't get to see your loved ones. I'll be goddamned if I'm gonna spend my life not allowed to show this fucking evidence, 'cause crooked fucking porkers want to cover the wrongdoing of other crooked fucking porkers. That group, it's got Nebraska in its name for a reason. This is the Midwest. You can't walk down the street in Chapel, Nebraska without having a child molester within a stone's throw of wherever you're at. These people like to drink and fuck their kids. And you can't say nothing, 'cause if you say something, the whole town will know by tomorrow, and they'll all look at you funny. Some of them will want to give you some sympathy. I'm sorry that happened. And some of them will harass you, 'cause you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have told on him. He'd never do a thing like that. That's your dad. But most of them are fine with just staring and whispering in the background. Meanwhile, it wasn't the cops that brought them down. It's always someone who actually fucking cares. When you're a child and you go in alone to tell on your parent, hey, you need a teacher who's going to do something about it. You need an authority figure who's going to do something about it. But then again, chances are pretty good that you're going to be shipped off. You're going to be separated from your loved ones. And these people know it. And the boys especially, they'll never speak up. Men don't get raped. They start telling you that shit when you're pretty fucking young here. 8 or 9. Men don't get raped. You're a man, aren't you? You're a man, aren't you? No, you're a fucking 8-year-old. Girls start cutting themselves at 5 times the rate of boys, starting at the age of 15. They cut themselves because they are literally crying for help. And crying for help got no help whatsoever. Nobody listened to them. Just like Natalie, cutting herself over and over and over and over again. Trying to drown out the pain with drugs. I drown out my pain by fighting back. By speaking out. By trying to force these sorry son of a bitches to do their goddamn jobs. They need to do something about Andrew Witcher. They need to do something about Ted Bollinger. They need to do something about Tim Beeson. Most of my predators were police officers, not sexual predators. I was never molested by a police officer. But I was sure as shit punished by him for defending myself against people who raped me, people who beat me, people who molested me. I never stopped speaking out. I never stopped fighting for the victims, ever. I want my life to end every single day. Every single day. And you know, as pissed off as Mandy Hughes is, Mandy Hughes went through hell as well. And her story keeps me going. She does her best to keep her family safe. Shannon Alvarado, she had a pretty cush life. But even she didn't make it through untouched. She still holds animosity at her mother because she was molested and she told her mom and nothing happened. I'm tired of all of these dead and missing children. Mandy Hughes, your name is public. You don't have to be afraid to come forward. If someone decides that they're going to hurt you, I will stand in front of you and stop them from doing so. That is what I do. With most of the victims, they don't come forward, especially the boys. Boys get molested too. Of course, they're more likely to blow their goddamn heads off over it. What do you do when you go to tell on your predator and the police treat you like you're crazy or help out your predator? Many victims are wives. Amy Witcher is one of those. But she's in love with Andrew. She lets him get away with doing things that no woman should have to. Just like Danica Gardner, sorry. And just like Shelley Campbell. For Alicia Bollinger to help out the man who molested her and her sister. That's more than just gross. That's disgusting on a whole nother level. I'm not gonna stop fighting. I'm not gonna stop speaking out. I'm not gonna stop speaking up. And I'm not gonna stop fighting for an honest day in court. If I have to break the fucking law to protect people, I'll do it. If I have to break the law to stop your daughter from getting molested, I'll do it. If I have to break the law to make sure that the cops do their goddamn jobs, then I will fucking do it. Just because you have a position of authority doesn't make it okay to fucking abuse it. Natalie should still be alive. Her dad should be in prison. And I never, ever should have been targeted. I've called the FBI repeatedly. I have literally declared war on the United States of America, openly and publicly on this very YouTube channel, while I was in Cheyenne, Wyoming just last year. If the United States government and its people won't do anything about these goddamn predators, then I don't give a fuck about Iraq. I don't give a fuck about Donald Trump. This is a nation full of pussies.